Back on Earth, news of the Vorath threat spread like wildfire. Governments held emergency meetings, military leaders scrambled to prepare defenses, and ordinary people panicked as reports flooded the media. The United Galactic Alliance, a coalition formed years ago to handle interstellar diplomacy, was thrust into action, uniting nations under one shared goal: survival. Alex Hart stood in the command center of Earth's defense headquarters, staring at a massive map of the galaxy projected onto the wall. The red dots representing Vorath ships were alarmingly close to human territory. Beside him, Commander Ethan Cole studied the same map, his jaw clenched with determination. "They're moving fast," Ethan said, breaking the silence. "If we don't slow them down, they'll reach Earth within weeks." Alex nodded grimly. "We're mobilizing everything we've got. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. But it won't be enough. We need an edge, something to level the playing field." Ethan glanced at the data Jason Carter had sent from the artifact. Scientists were already analyzing it, hoping to uncover something useful. "What about this intel? Anything promising?" "It's complicated," Alex admitted. "The artifact's tech is far beyond anything we've seen. Our engineers are trying to decode it, but progress is slow. If we can crack it, though, it might give us a shot." As they spoke, alarms blared in the background. A technician rushed over, holding a tablet. "Sir, we've detected more Vorath activity near the outer colonies. They're attacking supply lines and cutting off reinforcements." Alex cursed under his breath. The Vorath weren't just advancing. They were systematically dismantling humanity's ability to fight back. He turned to Ethan. "You need to leave now. Take your fleet and hit them hard before they reach populated areas. Buy us time." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Understood. I'll gather my crew and launch immediately." Meanwhile, aboard the *SS Horizon*, the crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage sustained during their escape. Captain Rachel Monroe paced the control room, her mind racing with strategies to stay ahead of the Vorath. Though they'd managed to evade destruction for now, she knew it was only a matter of time before the enemy caught up. Jason and Laura sat in a small lab, poring over the artifact's data. Their earlier success had given the crew hope, but the pressure weighed heavily on them. Jason rubbed his temples, frustration mounting as he struggled to make sense of the alien code. "We're missing something," he muttered, tapping furiously on his keyboard. "There has to be a pattern here." Laura leaned closer, pointing to a sequence of symbols. "What if these aren't instructions? What if they're coordinates?" Jason froze, staring at the screen. "Coordinates? For what?" "Maybe a weak point in their network," Laura suggested. "Or even their home base." Jason's eyes lit up. "It's worth a shot. Let me run some calculations." Hours passed as they worked, the rest of the crew holding their breath. Finally, Jason let out a triumphant shout. "I think I've got it. These coordinates lead to a key relay station. It's how the Vorath communicate across vast distances. If we disable it, we could cripple their entire operation." Captain Monroe listened intently as Jason explained his findings. Her expression hardened. "This could be our chance to turn the tide. But it's risky. We'd have to go deep into Vorath-controlled space." "I'll do it," Jason said firmly. "It's my fault we're in this mess. I'll fix it." Monroe hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but you're not going alone. Laura, you'll go with him. And we'll send backup." As preparations began, the mood aboard the *SS Horizon* shifted. For the first time since the crisis started, there was a glimmer of hope. But everyone knew the cost of failure would be catastrophic. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and time was running out. Jason Carter stared at the glowing artifact buried deep beneath the surface of an uncharted planet. The air around him was thick with anticipation, and his heart raced as he adjusted the settings on his scanner. Beside him, Laura Bennett crossed her arms, her expression a mix of concern and frustration. She had warned him about this. about tampering with something they didn't fully understand. But Jason wasn't listening. He never did when he thought he was onto something big. "Jason, we don't know what this thing does," Laura said, her voice firm but tinged with unease. "We should call it in. Let the experts handle it." Jason shook his head without looking up. His focus was entirely on the strange object before him. A sleek, metallic structure etched with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse faintly. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. "Laura, do you realize what this could mean? This isn't just some random piece of junk. This is history. This is proof that there's more out there than we ever imagined." She sighed, glancing over her shoulder at the rest of the team waiting near the excavation site. They were scientists, explorers, and engineers, all part of the crew aboard the *SS Horizon*. Their mission was simple: study anomalies in space and report back to Earth. But Jason had always been different. Where others saw danger, he saw opportunity. And right now, he saw the chance to make a discovery that would change everything. "You're acting like a kid in a candy store," Laura muttered, stepping closer. "But if you're wrong about this, we could be in serious trouble. We're light years away from help, Jason. If something goes wrong—" "Nothing will go wrong," he interrupted, finally meeting her gaze. There was a spark of determination in his eyes, but also something else, a hint of arrogance. "Trust me, Laura. I've got this." Before she could argue further, Jason pressed a button on his handheld device. A low hum filled the air as the artifact began to respond. Its glow intensified, and the patterns on its surface started shifting, almost like they were alive. Laura took a step back, her instincts screaming at her to stop him. But it was too late. The ground beneath them trembled slightly, and a sharp crackling sound echoed through the cavern. Jason froze, his confidence wavering for the first time. "Did you feel that?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "Yes, I felt it," Laura snapped. "Turn it off, Jason, right now." He hesitated, torn between curiosity and caution. But before he could decide, the artifact emitted a sudden burst of energy. It shot upward like a beacon, piercing through the ceiling of the cave and into the sky above. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, alarms began blaring from the equipment scattered around the site. "What have you done?" Laura demanded, her face pale. I don't know," Jason stammered, staring at the spot where the energy beam had disappeared. He felt a sinking feeling in his stomach, one he couldn't ignore. Something told him this wasn't going to end well. Back on the *SS Horizon*, Captain Rachel Monroe watched the readings come in from the planet below. Her brow furrowed as she processed the data. Whatever Jason had activated, it wasn't natural. And worse, it was sending out a signal, strong enough to reach across vast distances of space. "Captain," one of the officers called out, pointing to a new set of readings, "we're picking up movement. Multiple ships, heading straight for us." Rachel's blood ran cold. She turned to the communications officer. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Tell them we may have provoked something we can't handle." As the crew scrambled to prepare for whatever was coming, Jason and Laura stood silently in the cavern, the weight of what had just happened settling heavily on their shoulders. Somewhere out there, something or someone had heard their call, and it wasn't happy. The crew of the *SS Horizon* gathered in the ship's main control room, their faces tense with worry. The screens displayed multiple blips on the radar, moving rapidly toward their location. Whatever these ships were, they weren't friendly. Captain Rachel Monroe stood at the center of the chaos, her voice calm but firm as she gave orders to prepare for the worst. "Raise shields and arm all defensive systems," she commanded. "Divert power from non-essential functions to the engines. If we need to move quickly, I'd want us ready." Jason Carter sat slumped in a chair near the back of the room, his head in his hands. Laura Bennett stood beside him, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She shot him a glare that said everything she was thinking. "This is your fault." Jason avoided her gaze, guilt eating away at him. He knew she was right. If he hadn't been so reckless, they wouldn't be in this situation. Suddenly, the comms system crackled to life. A deep mechanical voice filled the room, vibrating through the walls like a warning. It wasn't in any human language, but the translation software kicked in almost instantly, converting the message into English. "To the inhabitants of the vessel known as *SS Horizon*, you have awakened the Vorith. Your interference with our relic has declared war upon your kind. Surrender now or face annihilation." The words hung heavy in the air, sending a chill down everyone's spines. The crew exchanged nervous glances, some whispering prayers under their breath. No one spoke for a moment, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Captain Monroe stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "Respond," she ordered. "Tell them we mean no harm. We did not know the artifact belonged to them. We seek peaceful resolution." The reply came quickly, colder and more menacing than before. "Ignorance is no excuse. You have trespassed where you do not belong. Prepare for judgment." Laura turned to Jason, her voice low but sharp. "Do you hear that? Judgment. Because of you, we're all going to die." Jason opened his mouth to defend himself, but no words came out. What could he say? She was right. His actions had put everyone in danger. He clenched his fists, frustration mixing with fear. He wanted to fix this, but how? Before anyone could react further, alarms blared again. The Vorith ships had arrived, surrounding the *SS Horizon* in a tight formation. On the main screen, the crew saw the enemy vessels for the first time. Sleek, black shapes with jagged edges, resembling predatory animals poised to strike. They radiated menace, and the sight made even the bravest among them feel small and helpless. "They're launching something," shouted one of the officers. Moments later, a small object detached from one of the Vorith ships and streaked toward the *SS Horizon*. It latched onto the hull with a loud clang, and within seconds, critical systems began shutting down. "Shields are offline. Weapons systems are compromised," another officer yelled. Panic spread through the control room as lights flickered and consoles sparked. Rachel barked commands, trying to keep the crew focused. "Engineering, reroute auxiliary power. Damage control teams, report to Deck 3 immediately." Amid the chaos, Jason noticed something strange. The artifact, still active in the cavern below, seemed to be resonating with the probe attached to the ship. Could it be communicating? Or worse, downloading information? He grabbed Laura's arm and pulled her aside. "We need to go back to the planet," he said urgently. "That thing holds the key to stopping them." Laura stared at him, incredulous. "Are you insane? We can barely keep this ship running, and you want to go back down there?" "It's the only way," Jason insisted. "If we can figure out how the artifact works, maybe we can use it against them." Laura hesitated, torn between logic and desperation. Finally, she nodded reluctantly. "Fine. But if this gets us killed, I'm blaming you." As they prepared to leave, Captain Monroe approached them. Her eyes were hard, but there was a flicker of hope in them too. "Do what you have to do," she said. "But hurry. We don't have much time." With that, Jason and Laura raced toward the shuttle bay, knowing the fate of the crew, and possibly all of humanity, rested on their shoulders. Behind them, the *SS Horizon* continued to fight for survival, holding off the Vorith assault as best it could. But the odds were against them, and every second counted. Back on Earth, the news of the *SS Horizon*'s predicament reached military strategist Alex Hart late at night. He was sitting in his office, poring over reports about recent border skirmishes with unknown forces, when the urgent message came through. His face darkened as he read the details. The Vorith. The name sent a shiver down his spine. Humanity had heard rumors of this species before. Whispers passed between traders and explorers who claimed they were ruthless and unstoppable. Now, it seemed those stories were true. Alex wasted no time. He contacted Commander Ethan Cole, one of the most experienced leaders in the fleet, and briefed him on the situation. "We need you to assemble a task force," Alex said, his tone grim but steady. "The *SS Verizon* is holding on by a thread, and if we lose them, the Vorath will have a clear path to Earth. You'll be leading the reinforcements." Ethan nodded, already mentally preparing for the mission ahead. "Understood. How long until we can mobilize?" 24 hours, tops," Alex replied. "But even then, it'll take weeks to reach their location. We're looking at a long fight, Commander. Make sure your crew knows what's at stake." As Ethan left to prepare his fleet, Alex turned his attention to the data being sent from the *SS Verizon*. Jason Carter's reckless actions had triggered this crisis, but the artifact he'd activated might also hold the key to surviving it. Alex studied the readings carefully, noting patterns that hinted at advanced technology far beyond human understanding. If they could unlock its secrets, they might stand a chance against the Vorath. Meanwhile, aboard the *SS Horizon*, Jason and Laura descended back to the planet's surface in a small shuttle. The ride was tense, neither of them speaking much. Jason focused on reviewing the notes he'd taken earlier, while Laura stared out the window, watching the Vorath ships circle the stricken vessel above. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap, but she didn't see any other options. When they landed near the artifact, the cavern felt different, charged with energy, almost alive. The glowing structure pulsed rhythmically, as though it sensed their presence. Jason approached cautiously, scanning it with his handheld device. "There's something here," he muttered, excitement creeping into his voice despite the danger. "Some kind of code embedded in the patterns. If I can decode it." Laura interrupted him, her voice sharp. "And what happens if you trigger another signal? Or worse, call more of them here?" Jason hesitated, glancing at her. "I don't know, but doing nothing isn't going to save us either." Reluctantly, Laura helped him set up equipment to analyze the artifact further. As they worked, the ground trembled occasionally, reminders of the battle raging above. Each vibration made Laura jump, her nerves stretched thin. She kept glancing toward the entrance of the cavern, half expecting Vorath drones to storm in at any moment. Hours passed, and just as frustration began to creep in, Jason let out a triumphant shout. "Got it." He pointed to his screen, where lines of alien text scrolled rapidly. This looks like a map. It shows weaknesses in their defenses, like vulnerabilities in their ships or maybe even their command structure." Laura leaned closer, her skepticism fading slightly. "Can we use this against them?" "We can try," Jason said, though uncertainty lingered in his voice. "But we'll need to get this information back to the ship. And fast." Before they could pack up, a loud crash echoed through the cavern. Both froze, hearts pounding. Something, or someone, was coming. The crash echoed again, louder this time, shaking loose rocks from the cavern ceiling. Jason and Laura exchanged a panicked glance before grabbing their equipment and retreating deeper into the shadows. They didn't have weapons, just scanners and tools, and the thought of facing whatever was coming made their stomachs churn. "Do you think it's the Vorath?" Laura whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Jason replied, his eyes darting toward the entrance. "But we need to stay quiet." Heavy footsteps followed the sound of the crash, slow and deliberate. A moment later, a dark figure emerged at the edge of the cavern. It wasn't human, or anything remotely close. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, its body covered in sleek black armor that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its face was hidden behind a mask-like visor, glowing faintly with the same eerie pulse as the artifact. This was a Vorath soldier, and it radiated menace. Jason held his breath, pressing himself against the wall. Beside him, Laura clutched the scanner tightly, ready to throw it if needed. The Vorath moved closer to the artifact, its movements fluid yet mechanical, like a living weapon. It paused, tilting its head as though listening for something. Then, without warning, it raised a clawed hand and touched the artifact's surface. The reaction was instant. The artifact flared brightly, bathing the cavern in a blinding light. Jason shielded his eyes, but through the glare, he saw the Vorath stagger back as though shocked. For a brief moment, it seemed confused, or maybe even pained, but just as quickly, it regained composure and turned its glowing visor toward the shadows where Jason and Laura hid. "They know we're here," Laura hissed under her breath, panic rising in her chest. "We need to run," Jason whispered back, already backing away. Before they could move, another figure appeared behind the first, a larger Vorath, taller and more imposing. Its armor was adorned with jagged markings, and its presence commanded authority. This one carried no weapons, only a staff-like device that hummed with energy. Jason realized with growing dread that this was no ordinary soldier. It was their leader. The leader spoke, its voice deep and resonant, translated automatically by the device on Jason's wrist. "You are the ones who disturbed our relic. Explain yourselves." Jason swallowed hard, stepping forward despite every instinct telling him to stay hidden. We didn't mean to cause harm," he stammered. "We didn't know it belonged to you. We're scientists. We study things like this." The Vorath leader tilted its head, studying him coldly. "Your ignorance does not excuse your actions. By tampering with the relic, you have declared war upon the Vorath." Laura stepped forward now, her voice firmer than Jason expected. "If you destroy us, you'll prove exactly what everyone says about your kind, that you're nothing but monsters. Is that what you want?" The Vorath leader paused, considering her words. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the soft hum of the artifact. Then, without warning, the leader raised its staff and fired a bolt of energy toward them. Jason and Laura dove aside just in time, the blast striking the wall behind them and sending shards of rock flying. "Run," Jason shouted, grabbing Laura's arm. They sprinted toward the exit, dodging more blasts as the Vorath gave chase. The cavern became a maze of narrow tunnels, forcing the creatures to slow down. Jason used the opportunity to activate a small EMP device he brought along, a last-ditch effort to disable their pursuers. When he triggered it, the artifact flickered wildly, and the Vorath hesitated, their systems momentarily disrupted. "This way," Laura called out, spotting a narrow opening leading outside. They burst into the open air, gasping for breath as they ran toward the shuttle. Behind them, the Vorath roared in fury, their forms silhouetted against the cavern's glow. As Jason and Laura climbed aboard and launched the shuttle, they could see the alien ships above beginning to descend. Time was running out, not just for them, but for the entire crew of the *SS Horizon*. As the shuttle ascended, Jason clenched his fists around the controls. He had the data they needed, but survival felt further away than ever. Jason and Laura's shuttle soared through the atmosphere, dodging bursts of energy fired from the Vorath ships above. The aliens weren't letting them escape easily. Every second felt like an eternity as Jason pushed the shuttle to its limits, weaving between glowing beams that lit up the dark sky. Laura clutched her seat tightly, her knuckles white, watching the chaos unfold outside the cockpit window. "They're closing in," she shouted over the roar of the engines. "We can't keep this up forever." "I know." Jason snapped back, his voice tense but focused. He glanced at the navigation screen, searching for a way to shake their pursuers. The *SS Horizon* was still locked in battle with the Vorath fleet, its battered frame barely holding together. If they could just reach the ship, maybe, just maybe, they'd have a chance. Suddenly, the comms crackled to life. It was Captain Monroe. "Carter, Bennett, what's your status?" Her voice was strained but steady, cutting through the noise. "We've got the data," Jason replied quickly. "But the Vorath are right behind us. We need cover fire." "Understood," Monroe said. A moment later, The *SS Horizon *'s cannons roared to life, firing salvos at the nearest Vorath ships. The distraction gave Jason and Laura precious seconds to maneuver closer to the larger vessel. Still, the enemy wasn't giving up. One of the Vorath ships broke formation and sped toward them, intent on intercepting the shuttle. "They're coming straight at us," Laura yelled, pointing ahead. The sleek black ship loomed larger by the second, blocking their path to safety. Jason gritted his teeth. There was no time to think, only act. With a sharp twist of the controls, he sent the shuttle into a steep dive, skimming dangerously close to the planet's surface. Alarms blared inside the cockpit as the craft shuddered violently, but Jason kept his hand steady. Behind them, the Vorath ship followed, matching their every move. "We're not going to make it," Laura cried, gripping the edge of her seat so hard her fingers hurt. "Yes, we will," Jason shot back, determination burning in his eyes. He pulled up sharply, aiming for a narrow gap between two towering rock formations. The shuttle scraped against the edges, sparks flying, but it held together. The pursuing Vorath ship wasn't so lucky. It clipped one of the rocks and exploded in a fiery burst. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then Laura let out a shaky laugh, relief washing over her face. "Nice flying," she admitted grudgingly. "Don't get used to it," Jason muttered, though a hint of pride crept into his voice. He guided the shuttle toward the *SS Horizon *, which now hovered protectively above them, its shields flickering but intact. As they docked, the crew rushed to greet them. Captain Monroe looked exhausted but relieved to see them alive. "Did you get it?" she asked without preamble. Jason nodded, handing over the data drive containing the artifact's secrets. "It's not much, but it might help us fight back." Monroe didn't waste any time. She turned to her officers. "Get this to engineering. See if we can use it to disable the Vorath weapons or communications, and prep the warp drive. We're getting out of here." The crew sprang into action, working frantically to carry out her orders. But as the *SS Horizon * prepared to jump to warp, the Vorath launched a final assault. Their ships surrounded the vessel, trapping it in a tight net of firepower. Shields collapsed under the relentless barrage, and explosions rocked the hull. "Warp drive is offline," someone shouted from the control panel. Panic spread among the crew. Jason stepped forward, guilt and resolve warring within him. "Let me fix it," he said firmly. "I caused this mess. I'll end it." Before anyone could stop him, he ran toward the engine room, Laura close behind. Together, they worked feverishly to reroute power and stabilize the system. Sweat dripped down Jason's face as he entered the last command. The ship groaned under the strain, but finally, the warp drive engaged. With a flash of light, the *SS Horizon * vanished, leaving the Vorath fleet behind. For now, they were safe. But Jason knew the war was far from over. Jason and Laura stood in the airlock of the *SS Horizon *, clad in sleek black infiltration suits. Their mission was clear: sneak aboard a Vorath relay station, disable its core systems, and escape before anyone noticed. It sounded simple enough in theory, but both knew the reality would be far more dangerous. The Vorath weren't just advanced, they were ruthless. "Remember," Captain Monroe said as she handed them small devices resembling wristbands, "these will cloak your heat signatures for about 30 minutes. After that, you're on your own." Jason nodded, slipping the device onto his wrist. "Got it. 30 minutes to get in, sabotage the system, and get out." Laura adjusted her utility belt, checking the charge on her plasma cutter. "And if something goes wrong?" Monroe's expression softened slightly. "Then we'll do everything we can to pull you out, but don't count on it. This is a one-way trip unless you succeed." The two exchanged a glance, silently acknowledging the weight of what they were about to do. Then, without another word, they stepped into the shuttle that would take them to the edge of Vorath space. The journey was tense. Neither spoke much as they approached the relay station, a massive structure floating in the void, bristling with weapons and glowing with ominous energy. Up close, it looked less like a machine and more like a living organism, pulsing faintly as though breathing. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just technology. It was alien, incomprehensible, and utterly hostile. "Ready?" he asked, gripping the controls tightly. "As ready as I'll ever be," Laura replied, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. They docked at a maintenance hatch on the station's underside, using stolen Vorith codes to bypass the security protocols. The cloaking devices activated the moment they stepped inside, masking their presence as they moved cautiously through dimly lit corridors. The walls hummed with energy, and strange symbols flickered along the surfaces, casting eerie shadows. "This place gives me the creeps," Laura whispered, keeping her voice low. "You're not alone," Jason muttered, scanning the area ahead. So far, they hadn't encountered any guards, but he knew it wouldn't last. The Vorith weren't careless. They'd reached the central chamber housing the relay core, a towering column of light and machinery that seemed to pulse in time with some unseen heartbeat. Jason pulled out his scanner, analyzing the system while Laura kept watch. "How long will this take?" she asked, glancing nervously at the entrance. 5 minutes, maybe 10, Jason replied, his fingers flying over the keypad. "Just keep an eye out for trouble." But trouble found them sooner than expected. A group of Vorith soldiers entered the chamber, their armored forms moving with mechanical precision. Jason froze, realizing too late that the cloaking devices had short-circuited due to interference from the core's energy field. They were exposed. "Stay calm," Laura whispered, pulling out her plasma cutter. "We fight our way out if we have to." Before either could act, one of the Vorith raised a clawed hand, pointing directly at them. Its visor glowed brighter, and a deep, guttural voice filled the room. "You dare trespass here. You will pay for your insolence." Jason's mind raced. Fighting wasn't an option. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Instead, he raised his hand slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. "Wait, we're not here to hurt you. We want to talk." The Vorith leader tilted its head, studying them curiously. For a moment, there was silence. Then it spoke again. "Talk? About what?" Jason swallowed hard. He didn't know if negotiation was possible, but it was their only chance. About ending this war before it destroys us all. The Vorith leader studied Jason and Laura for a long moment, its glowing visor unreadable. The silence in the chamber was suffocating, broken only by the faint hum of the relay core. Jason kept his hands raised, trying to appear calm despite the fear coursing through him. Laura stood beside him, her grip tight on the plasma cutter, ready to act if things turned violent. "Explain yourselves," the Vorith leader finally said, its deep voice resonating through the room. "Why should we listen to you?" Jason took a cautious step forward, lowering his hand slightly. "We didn't mean to provoke your kind. What happened with the artifact? It was a mistake. We're explorers, not warriors. If you destroy us, it won't bring back whatever you lost. But if we work together, maybe we can find a way to avoid more bloodshed." The Vorith leader tilted its head, as though considering his words. Then it gestured to one of its soldiers, who stepped forward and scanned Jason and Laura with a handheld device. After a moment, the soldier nodded and stepped back. "You claim ignorance," the leader said, its tone icy. "But ignorance has consequences. Your species tampered with something sacred, something that does not belong to you." Laura spoke up then, her voice steady but firm. "Sacred or not, it sent out a signal. That's what brought you here, isn't it? You weren't planning to come near us until we triggered that thing. So don't act like we're the only ones at fault." The chamber fell silent again, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Jason shot Laura a quick glance, worried she'd pushed too far. But instead of lashing out, the Vorith leader let out a low mechanical sound that might have been laughter, or something darker. "You are bold, For such fragile creatures, it said, perhaps there is merit in hearing you out. But know this, if you deceive us, you will not live to regret it. Jason nodded quickly. Understood. Thank you. The leader gestured for them to follow, leading them deeper into the station. As they walked, Jason couldn't help but notice how different the interior looked compared to human ships. Everything seemed alive, pulsing with energy and shifting subtly as though responding to their presence. It was unsettling, but also fascinating. He tried to focus on the task at hand, reminding himself why they were here. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber filled with holographic displays and strange, organic-looking consoles. The leader motioned for them to stop, then activated one of the displays. Images flickered to life. Scenes of devastation, battles fought against other alien species, entire planets reduced to ash. This is what happens when others trespass where they do not belong, the leader explained. Your signal awakened memories of those who sought to destroy us. Memories of war. Jason stared at the images, his stomach twisting with guilt. I'm sorry. Truly. But that doesn't have to happen again. We're not like the others. Give us a chance to prove it. The leader paused, its glowing visor fixed on him. Then it turned to one of its subordinates and issued a command in its own language. Moments later, a new image appeared, a map of the galaxy, highlighting several key locations. These are our colonies, the leader said. If you wish to survive, you will leave these areas untouched. Attempt to interfere again, and we will show no mercy. It was an ultimatum, plain and simple. Jason hesitated, unsure whether to accept or argue further. But before he could respond, Laura stepped forward. And if we agree? She asked. Will you stop attacking us? The leader regarded her coldly. For now, but trust is earned, not given. Jason exchanged a glance with Laura, silently asking if they should take the deal. She gave a slight nod, and he turned back to the leader. We'll honor your terms. No interference, no aggression. Just peace. The leader studied them for a moment longer, then nodded. Very well. Return to your ship. Tell your leaders what you have seen. And remember, the Vorth do not forgive betrayal. With that, they were escorted back to the docking bay. As they climbed into their shuttle, Jason felt a mix of relief and unease. They had bought humanity some time, but at what cost? Jason and Laura's shuttle raced back toward the *SS Horizon*, their minds heavy with everything they'd seen and heard aboard the Vorth relay station. The images of destruction still lingered in Jason's mind. The scars of wars fought long before humanity had even ventured into space. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a thin line between survival and annihilation. As they approached the ship, the crew of the *SS Horizon* welcomed them with a mix of relief and urgency. Captain Rachel Monroe wasted no time, pulling them into the control room for a debriefing. What happened? She asked, her tone sharp but controlled. Did you disable the relay? Jason hesitated, glancing at Laura. Not exactly. We talked to them. Monroe raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. Talked? To the Vorth. They gave us a choice, Laura explained quickly. Leave their colonies alone or face total war. For now, they've agreed to a truce, but it's fragile. The captain frowned, leaning back in her chair. A truce isn't much when we're still surrounded by their fleet. What about the artifact? Did you learn anything useful? Jason nodded, pulling out his scanner. Their tech is tied to the same energy patterns as the artifact. If we can replicate those patterns, we might be able to disrupt their systems on a larger scale. But it'll take time and resources we don't have here. Monroe sighed, rubbing her temples. Earth needs to know about this. Prep a message and send it through secure channels. And make sure Commander Cole's fleet gets updated coordinates. While the crew worked on transmitting the intel, Jason and Laura retreated to the lab to analyze the data further. They knew the temporary ceasefire wouldn't hold forever. The Vorth were patient, methodical, and if provoked again, far less forgiving. Hours later, the *SS Horizon* received a transmission from Commander Ethan Cole's fleet. His voice crackled over the comms, tense but determined. "We've engaged the Vorath near the outer colonies. Their ships are tough, but we've managed to push them back. For now. How's your end looking?" Monroe stepped forward, speaking into the microphone. "We've established a fragile truce, but it won't last. Jason thinks he can use the artifact's energy patterns to disable their weapons. Once we get close enough, we'll test it." "Good," Cole replied, "because reinforcements are still weeks away. Hold tight until then." As the transmission ended, alarms blared throughout the ship. One of the officers shouted, "Vorath ships incoming. They're breaking formation." Panic spread among the crew, but Monroe remained calm. "Raise shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers. Jason, Laura, get to the engine room. If this plan works, we'll need every advantage." The two sprinted toward the lower decks, dodging vibrations as the ship rocked under enemy fire. In the engine room, engineers scrambled to reroute power to the experimental weapons system based on Jason's designs. Laura helped stabilize the core while Jason fine-tuned the energy output. "This is it," Jason said, his hands trembling over the controls. "If this doesn't work, we're done for." Laura placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "It'll work. It has to." With a deep breath, Jason activated the system. A low hum filled the ship as a beam of concentrated energy shot outward, striking one of the nearest Vorath vessels. The alien ship shuddered violently, its weapons going dark. Cheers erupted from the crew as the rest of the fleet followed suit, targeting other ships with similar results. For the first time, the tide began to turn. The Vorath retreated, regrouping at a safe distance. Though battered and bruised, the humans had proven they weren't so easily defeated. But as Jason stared at the screens showing the retreating fleet, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. The Vorath weren't gone. They were planning. And next time, humanity might not be so lucky. The battle had ended, but the tension aboard the *SS Horizon* remained thick. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage from the fight, their faces etched with exhaustion. Jason and Laura stood in the control room, watching as the Vorath fleet lingered at a distance, its ships dark and silent like predators waiting for the right moment to strike again. Captain Monroe approached them, her expression grim but resolute. "We've bought ourselves some time," she said, glancing at the screen showing the enemy's position. "But this isn't over. They'll be back. And next time, they won't hold back." Jason nodded, guilt still weighing heavily on him. "I know. But maybe we can use this time to find a real solution. Something that doesn't involve more fighting." Monroe studied him for a moment before responding. "What do you have in mind?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "The artifact. It's not just a weapon or a tool. It's part of their history, their culture. If we show them we're willing to understand it instead of exploiting it, maybe we can build trust. Real trust." Laura crossed her arms, skeptical but intrigued. "You think they'll listen after everything that's happened?" "It's worth a try," Jason replied firmly. "If we don't at least attempt to bridge the gap, then we're no better than the species that attacked them in the past." Monroe considered his proposal, then nodded slowly. "All right. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what you're thinking. And make sure Commander Cole knows about this too. We'll need everyone on board if we're going to pull this off." As preparations began, Jason and Laura worked together to draft a proposal. They suggested forming a joint research team, human and Vorath scientists working side by side to study the artifact. It was risky, even idealistic, but Jason believed it was the only way to prevent another war. Days later, the Vorath responded, not with hostility, but with cautious curiosity. Overmind Kale, the leader who had interrogated Jason earlier, agreed to meet aboard a neutral platform, an abandoned space station orbiting a distant moon. Both sides sent representatives, including Jason and Laura, who stepped into the meeting chamber with trepidation. The atmosphere was tense as humans and Vorith faced each other across a long table. Cal's glowing visor scanned the room before settling on Jason. "You propose cooperation," Cal said, its voice deep and measured. "Why should we believe your intentions are genuine?" Jason took a deep breath, stepping forward. "Because we've seen the cost of ignorance and arrogance. We want to learn from you, not against you. This artifact connects us both. Let it be a symbol of peace, not conflict." For a long moment, there was silence. Then Cal tilted its head, almost imperceptibly. "Very well. We will allow your scientists access to the relic under strict supervision. Betray this trust, however, and there will be no second chances." The agreement wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As the meeting concluded, Jason felt a flicker of hope, a fragile, tentative light in the darkness of uncertainty. Humanity had taken its first step toward coexistence with one of the galaxy's deadliest species. Back aboard the SS Verizon Asterisk, Captain Monroe addressed the crew. "This isn't the end of the fight," she said, her voice steady but hopeful. "It's the beginning of something new, something harder, but also more important. Let's prove to them, and to ourselves, that we're capable of change." As the ship set course for Earth, Jason stared out the viewport at the vast expanse of stars. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and risks. But for the first time since activating the artifact, he felt a sense of purpose, not just as a scientist, but as a representative of humanity's potential for growth. Peace wasn't guaranteed, but it was possible. And sometimes, that was enough.